Bam! That's right. I've got Kill Team Elites. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to a Glacial Geek, review of Kill Team Elites here. GW was nice enough to send me a preview copy of Kill Team Elites and allow me to give you guys a preview of what we have to come here with the new expansion to Kill Teams. I'm very excited for this. I've been very excited for this since they've announced that they were coming out with it, and I just think it's going to be awesome, allowing expanding the realm of different models that we can use when we play with them. Kind of going off the bat here, looking through everything here, they've got some cool information. They've got all of the contents, table of contents, which they already previewed on the GW website. And then they talk about heroes and villains, and going through here with some cool fluff go there. But then we get right into the rules. Seriously, it's only a couple of pages of not rules, and then we get straight into the rules. So the first thing they talk about here are the elite operatives. They've added a few things to this game, to the game now, through this book, through this expansion. The first thing they talk about is legendary hunter specialists, which is right here. They talk about here. Essentially, what it is, there are a few characters in the book that are available as commanders that have the legendary hunter specialism, and that's the only specialism they have. That's the one they have to take. And dependent upon the level that they are in that specialism is the level that they get. And they get every single one of the traits straight through, and they have access to the different tactics that you command point that you can use for them. So for instance, if you have a legendary hunter level 1, they have hard case. They ignore the penalty to the model's hit rolls from flesh wounds that are suffered, which is pretty cool. And it's all flesh wounds and not just one, so it's better than transhuman physiology like in the regular Marines. Level 2 says when you set up this model from reserve, which is something we'll get into in a second, that when you set up this model from reserve, set them up anywhere on the battlefield that is more than 5 inches away from an enemy model, which is kind of cool. So it's basically deep strike in Kill Team now, which is kind of a cool mechanic that they've added into this. Level 3, Stealthy Hunter. When an opponent makes a hit roll or injury roll for a shooting attack that targets this model, and this model is obscured, that hit roll or injury roll suffers an additional -1 modifier. So the modifiers that you get for being obscured are increased by 1, which is really kind of cool. So it's -2 to hit them, and then -2 if you are obscured and within an inch of the terrain, within an inch of the piece that obscures you for rolling on those injury rolls, which is really nice. And then level 4 is like fighting a shadow. Once per battle at the start of any movement phase, if there are no enemy models within 6 inches of this model, other than shaken models, and this model is not shaken, you may remove this model from the battlefield and place them in reserve. So this is as good a time as any to talk over the reserve rules, which they go into over here. Essentially what the reserve rules are is that at the beginning of the game, you can set up half of your models, point value and number wise, into reserve as opposed to setting them up on the battlefield. Then, at the end of any movement phase, it doesn't specify not including turn 1, so at the end of the movement phase on turn 1, you can also bring them in. You can put any model in. There's no requirements for them to have any kind of special rule other than they're a model in your kill team. But if they don't have any other special rules going along with them, essentially what they have to be done is at the end of the movement phase, you can set them up on the table more than 5 inches away from an enemy model. Also, they have to be within an inch of the edge of the battlefield, and they must be wholly within your deployment zone. So it really restricts where reserves who don't have special abilities going forward can come in. But they do have a universal tactic that's available to everyone then, is use this tactic at the end of the movement phase, choose a model from your kill team that was set up in reserves, and set them up within 1 inch of the edge of the battlefield and more than 5 inches away from enemy models. So this then allows you to put any model within 1 inch of the table edge, of any table edge, not just your own that's within your deployment zone. So it basically takes away the requirement for being within your deployment zone when you do that. And that's for 1 CP. So you can take any model that you have in your army and set them up within an inch of the table edge and more than 5 inches away from an enemy model. This does mean that you can't get off charges out of reserves because it doesn't, it's at the end of the movement phase, so they don't get to do another move, and that's when you set them up. But it allows you to get into better position. You'll still be able to shoot, and all of that fun business that they have going on there. So going back over here, they also talk about sub-factions, which is a new rule that's in place now within the game. And essentially what it is that if you have a kill team that's made up of entirely out of a specific group, they get certain benefits. So for instance, in the chapter tactics for Adeptus Astartes, as long as all of them are coming from this one chapter, you can take certain rules. So for instance, Dark Angels get Grim Resolve, which is you can reroll hit rolls of 1 for shooting attacks made by models in your kill team, including when firing Overwatch, that have not moved in the battle round. In addition, you can reroll the dice to determine whether or not your kill team is broken in the morale phase. A lot of the special chapter tactics or the different tactics for the different sub-factions revolve around a similar situation where you can either get, like for instance, the Space Wolves and the Blood Angels have the same rule that they had that they have in 40k. So, for instance, Blood Angels, in the battle round in which your model and your kill team was charged, or made a pile-in move granted by the Heroic Intervention tactic, add 1 to wound rolls for attacks made by this model in the fight phase. Same thing. Space Wolves are 1 to hits, and it also increases their Heroic Intervention and pile-in for commanders, because I think it's a commander-specific trait for Heroic Intervention there. Imperial Fists also have the same rule as we'll get to further as the Iron Hands. Iron Warriors, my bad. Is models in your kill team do not suffer the penalty to injury rolls for targets that they attack being obscured and within 1 inch of a model or piece of terrain that is between the two models. So it basically ignores the negative modifier to injury rolls for that. White Scars have an interesting one, which is it answers a problem that a lot of people have been talking about, and I think that might make them a pretty popular choice for aggressive close combat Marine factions. Is that if when your model in your kill team they get 2 inches, extra 2 inches to their advance move, which is pretty cool. But in addition, if a model in your kill team started the movement phase within 1 inch of an enemy model, but when you pick it to move, there are no enemy models within 1 inch, basically meaning that if you were in combat the previous round and then your opponent moved the model that was in combat with it out of combat, then they are allowed to they're still allowed to make a charge attempt instead of falling back or remaining stationary. So you still have remain stationary or fall back. So you can't just make a move action, but you can declare a charge action, which is interesting. So you can chase down someone that's trying to get out of combat with you. That's kind of something that a lot of people have been talking about and begrudging. And I played it wrong when we first started playing. But so this gets past it. So the White Scars have that ability, which is pretty cool. Iron Hands have their 6-up, feel no pain. There's a couple different things. Like the Ultramarines have +1 to leadership, and they can shoot when they fall back, but they can... if you've retreated or fell back in a battle round, you can still shoot, but you're required to roll a 6 to hit for it. So it's it's a little bit more stringent than their 40k version, but you still get to do it, which is kind of cool. So you can fall back and still shoot, which is interesting. So, for instance, if you had an Ultramarine that was in combat, survived it, and then your opponent fell back out of combat, you can still now then move to fall them back into cover so that they're protected and still get off a shot, so you're not just left with not being able to do anything. So that's kind of cool. Black Templars can reroll charge rolls. Raven Guard are considered obscured if they're more than 12 inches away. That's another one that becomes pretty popular going on with other ones. Regimental Doctrines. We have an interesting situation here. Now, you have to take all of them from the same... To get the benefits for these different powers, for these different doctrines, you have to have all of them be from the regiment. But Militarum Tempestus and Advisors and Auxilia don't count against you getting that tactic. There is a tactic for Militarum Tempestus, but you have to have your entire kill team be Militarum Tempestus to get the benefit of that. Or I guess the entire benefit of it, but I guess also the advisors and auxiliary wouldn't count against you there. But you can add in Tempestus units into a regular guard kill team and still gain the benefits of those different tactics. So for instance, Cadians reroll unmodified hit rolls of 1 in the shooting phase for models of your kill team that have not moved this turn, and if they use the take aim order, then they can reroll all failed hit phases as long as they haven't moved. So if they haven't moved and you give them take aim, they get to reroll everything, which is kind of cool. Catachan also have the same thing basically as their 40k benefits, getting a +1 to strength. Valhallans can take a nerve test for the model of your kill team, roll a d3 instead of a d6. That's another thing that kind of comes up fairly often. So it's kind of interesting to see them. They have this, the different ways that they have them going along that way. Again, nothing super different in these. Again, a lot of them just roll off of differences in +1s to hit, -1s to hit, all those different things. It's kind of interesting. They've got a wide range for you to choose from, which is fun. So they've got them here for Armageddon. They got Festroyan, Mordian. Mordian get benefits for being next to each other, which is kind of cool. Parade drill is their rule. Talarans don't. There's also a lot of them here who don't suffer the penalty for moving with heavy weapons or advancing with assault weapons. There's some in here that give you the benefit of treating your rapid fire weapons as assault weapons, which is kind of cool. So it would turn like a rapid fire 1 into an assault 1. So you'd still get 1 shot. You wouldn't get double at close range. But if you advance with them, you could still shoot with it. Then you go into the Forge World Dogmas. So these are the ones for the AdMech. The one that I thought was kind of interesting in here, a lot of them are just following the same things. Mars, you can roll 2 dice for your for during the Canicles. But Greya here, you roll a dice each time a model for your kill team is reduced to 0 wounds. On a roll of 6, they are restored to 1 wound remaining. In addition, models in your kill team the kill team pass nerve tests on an unmodified roll of a 6 as well as an unmodified roll of a 1. However, models in your kill team cannot retreat or fall back unless there's a commander in your kill team on the battlefield. This one I thought was interesting because it actually gives a negative for holding them. So you can't fall back and you can't retreat, basically unless you're playing a commander mission and you have a commander. And as long as they're on the battlefield. So even if they're killed, you lose that ability to do those things. A lot of the other rules don't give you a negative to things that you can't do. That one did, I guess, because of the fact that you can just not die, which is a pretty powerful ability. And it also increases your innate ability to auto pass nerve tests, regardless of how many people you've lost, by twice as much now that it's on 6s and 1s. So again, like I said, you can reroll wound rolls of 1 in the fight phase with Ryza. There's when a model your kill team fires Overwatch, they do so on a 5 or a 6. If you're Agrippina, there's a lot of them there that follow the same kind of rules. There's ones here for, again, like treating your rapid fire weapons as if they were assault weapons in the shooting phase and ignoring the negative for assault for advancing. All those different ones. So it's kind of interesting. Legion traits now, we get into an interesting situation. Chaos cultists do not gain the benefit of Legion traits. There's actually a couple different units in this book that don't gain the benefit of the various traits that they have. So the Kroot don't get benefits from it in Tau kill teams. Chaos cultists don't. Neither do the Triarch Praetorians, which is a new unit available to the Necrons in this. And neither do the Gretchen units gain benefits for the clan cultures in the Orc kill teams. But again, going over these ones here, again, it's a lot of the same the same kind of rules differences that you have there. Which one thing I thought was kind of interesting is that in order to take Emperor's Children, only models with the Slaanesh keyword can be drawn from this legion. So you have to take them with giving them a mark of Slaanesh. Same thing for the World Eaters. They have to be Khorne. There isn't one, obviously, for Nurgle, because that's going to be going into, further into what they've got going on there. But you don't. Those are the two. There's 2 of those Legion tactics traits that you have to have those marks to take them from. So that's was kind of interesting. I thought a little bit different there, keeping it, I guess, fluffy in what they have to do there. So again, Iron Warriors have that same thing, do not suffer the penalty to injury rolls like the Imperial Fists do. Word Bearers can reroll nerve tests for their models in the kill team, so basically giving them and they shall know no fear rule, which is kind of interesting. Alpha Legion have the same thing as the Raven Guard, so that they have outside of 12 inches, they're considered to be obscured. And the Renegade chapters, Dark Raiders, they get a reroll charge rolls for models in your kill team, which is kind of cool. So that's the Legion traits there. They also have Craft World attributes. So they've got, Oathway, they've got Biel-Tan, Alatok. Again, they have the various different things. So Sam Hain can reroll charge rolls for models in your kill team. Iandan have, when you take a nerve test for the model, kill team rolls a D3 instead of a D6, which is always super handy. Biel-Tan, add 1 to leadership characteristics of aspect warriors in your kill team. In addition, you can reroll hit rolls of 1 for shuriken weapons used by the models in your kill team. A shuriken weapon is any weapon profile. The name includes blah, blah, blah. So there's just some interesting stuff there. Alatok have that same thing where they're considered obscured outside of 12 inches. So all of that fun stuff. The Drukhari Obsessions actually have something. They've changed things now. They've given keywords of Cabal, Witch Cult, and Homunculus Coven. And you have to include all of them. They have to be taken from all of those. So Blades for Hire Drukhari models that do not have the Cabal, Witch Cult, or Homunculus keywords cannot be drawn from a Cabal, Witch Cult, or Homunculus Coven, but can be included in the Drukhari kill team without preventing the models from the kill team gaining the obsession. Note, however, these models can never themselves benefit. So that's another one that doesn't get the benefit of their of the traits. There is anything without the Witch, Cabal, or Homunculus Covens. And the existing data sheets, they gave the Cabalite Warriors and Archons gain the Cabal keyword, Witches and Succubi gain the Witch Cult keyword, and Homunculi gain the Homunculus Coven keyword. Then you go in here, so you've got the Cabal of the Black Heart, Thirst for Power. So models in your kill team that treat the current battle round as being 1 higher than usual for determining their bonuses when they gain from Power from Pain. And models in your kill team that do not have the Power from Pain ability instead gain Inured from Suffering bonus, which is one of the Power from Pain things. So that's kind of interesting how they've got that, working out with that, doing the different abilities that they have. So playing along with the different mechanics that they have in there, something interesting and original, which is kind of cool. And then you have other things like the Prophets of Flesh, models from your kill team with the insensible to pain ability have the invulnerable save of 4+ rather than a 5+. So they have a bunch of different things that they go through here. Models of your kill team for the Cabal of the Obsidian Rose. Models of your kill team do not suffer the penalty to hit rolls for attacks that target enemy models at long range. That's another one that's kind of pretty popular throughout the different ones. Increase the strength characteristic of models from your kill team by 1. In addition, when you take a nerve test for a model of your kill team, subtract 1 from the result. That's the Cult of the Cursed Blade. So a bunch of different cool. They've got a whole bunch of them there. So they've got the Cabals, they've got the Cults, they got the Covens. It's kind of interesting what they've got here. And they say your kill team is drawn from a Cabal, Witch Cult, or Homunculus Coven that does not have. You can just choose which one they want to have them associated with it. So it's kind of interesting the way they've got that worked out there, breaking it down again like they do in the main Drukhari rules. So then going into the Harlequins here. They've got a whole bunch of different cool, interesting things here. So you've got the one that I thought was interesting was Veiled Path. The one that they've got here for Veiled Path, Riddlesmiths. At the start of the fight phase, roll 2 dice and discard the highest result. Until the end of the phase, each time an opponent targets a model in your kill team and makes a hit roll that, before modifiers exactly matches your dice roll, that hit roll fails. So if you roll double 6s, that means that 6s will actually fail for your opponent if they're attacking you in the fight phase. So that was thought kind of interesting the way they have that there. You can move an additional d6 inches for Midnight Sorrow when you fall back, which is kind of cool. So if you fall back, you don't just have your regular move; you have your move plus d6, which is kind of cool. In addition, they can consolidate up to 6 inches. So again, pretty interesting there. You can make one additional attack in the fight phase with a model in your kill team if it was charged, or made a pile-in move, which is Frozen Stars mask. Soaring Spite, models in your kill team treat all pistol weapons they have equipped with as Assault 1 weapons during a battle round in which they advanced. So it's not just any time, they're just when they advance, they count as Assault 1. So you can shoot your pistols even if you advance to get into a better position. In addition, these models do not suffer the penalty to their hit rolls for shooting assault weapons in the battle round in which they advance. So it's kind of cool what they have going on there. Like I said, that one with the 2 dice taking the lowest and having those auto fail, I thought was an interesting new mechanic that they've got going on there. Then you go into dynastic codes here for the Necrons. Again, so the Triarch Stalkers do not gain the benefit. Triarch Praetorian, cannot be drawn for the dynasty, but they don't hold against it. So you can still take them and still get the dynastic codes for everyone else in your kill team, just not the Triarch Praetorians. And they've got a whole bunch of their usual stuff again. Models for Sawtech. Models in your kill team can shoot ranged weapons as if they were assault weapons in the shooting phase of a battle round in which they advance. So again, e.g. rapid fire 1 weapons are now become assault 1 weapons. If a model in your kill team targets an enemy model that is with range and not at long range when making a shooting attack, improve the armor penetration characteristic of the weapon attack by 1, which is pretty cool for Mefrit. Again, there's a lot of those ones too where they say if they're in range but not at long range. So if you're basically at half range, they give you benefits that you get to do. So this one, it's increase the armor penetration for Mefrit, which is pretty cool. There's a couple of them throughout this though, where they have various abilities. So for instance, like they said, like the Dark Angels have reroll hit rolls of 1 if they didn't move, and they get the benefit of being to reroll their break tests. There's some other ones that just get the benefit of rerolling 1s to hit if they haven't moved. I don't know what the balanced choice between that was. It may have just been a fluffy choice that, Dark Angels are meant to be grim and resolved, and that they wanted to show something a little bit different than just getting that rerolls of 1. But they have, like I said, a couple different things here. So again, flash hits. So for the orcs here, flash hits can be included in any orc kill team without preventing other kill team from gaining the clan culture. Note, however, that flash hits can never themselves benefit from it. Same thing with grots. So I missed that with the flash hits and the grots, neither of which gain the benefit of the clan cultures, but the clan cultures can still get their benefit here. One that I thought was interesting were the freebooters. They add 1 to hit rolls for attacks made by models in your kill team for each other model in your kill team that has taken an enemy model out of action with an attack this phase. So if you have a model that shoots and kills, takes a model out of action with a shooting attack, the next model to shoot gets to add 1 to their hit rolls for their attacks, and so forth and so on. So if you kill 2, the next one to go will get to have +2 to their hit rolls. And it says just in a phase, so it doesn't say shooting. So this could happen in the fight phase or in the shooting phase, or both, if you want to take advantage of both of them there. So they have a couple of things here, like the Evil Sons. Add 1 to the movement characteristics for models in your kill team, and add 1 to advance and charge rolls made for them, which is pretty cool. That means they're going to be really booting it up the board, which is pretty awesome. In addition, models do not suffer the penalty for hit rolls for shooting assault weapons during the battle round in which they advance. So you can advance and shoot assault weapons, and you get +1 to the move, +1 to the... So you basically get 2 inches to your advance rolls, you get +1 to your charge rolls, 1 to your regular move rolls. Pretty good there for the Evil Sons. Bad Moons just reroll hit rolls of 1 for attacks made for models in your kill team in the shooting phase. So they don't even have to stay still. They just get rerolls of 1 in the shooting phase. So like I said, there's a bit of difference throughout them, but again, that's orc shooting versus marine shooting. I'm sure that came into account for it. But it's kind of interesting. There's a whole bunch of these different ones that you can really change it to your taste, which I think is super fun. The set tenets were pretty cool. These are going through with the Tau here. They've just got a bunch of the same things. Honestly, they've got a lot of the same ones, like Borkan. Models in your kill team do not suffer penalty hit rolls and attacks that target an enemy model at long range, which is kind of cool. So you're basically giving everyone like the sniper rule, so you can just shoot and you don't have a penalty for a long distance. The Viola, your models in your kill team can shoot rapid fire weapons as if they were assault weapons again. Tau set, you get Overwatch, and when you use the Greater Good ability, shooting Overwatch, as long as they're within 6 inches of another model, they get to Overwatch on 5s and 6s. So if you're all of your own, you only Overwatch on 6s, but if you've got another model within 6 inches of you, or you use the Greater Good ability, you can hit on 5s and 6s in Overwatch, which is pretty cool. Then they've got, like Sasea, add 1 to the leadership characteristic of models in your kill team. In addition, you can reroll hit rolls of 1 for shooting attacks made by models in your kill team. So they're getting reroll hit rolls of 1, plus they get the add 1 to their leadership characteristics. So it's just kind of interesting the way they went about doing those different things. And again, Kroot don't get the benefit of the set tenets. High Fleet adaptations here. They've got a whole bunch of the same usual ones. Behemoth, which is kind of interesting. You can reroll charge rolls from models in your kill team. Something interesting for that I thought was if you take Behemoth Tyranids, you can give them the extra armor. So they got a 4-up armor save, which would normally take away your Swift and Deadly, which is the reroll failed charge rolls, and they will still get to reroll their failed charge rolls and have the 4-up armor save. So you get the benefit of both, which I think would be a kind of an interesting way to work it out there. Or anything else that's not Tyranid, that's not Jeanstealers, will get the ability to reroll their charge rolls. So again, Leviathan, roll a d6 each time a model for your kill team loses a wound whilst it's within 6 inches of a friendly Synapse model. On a 6, the damage is ignored, so 6-up feel no pain within Synapse, which is pretty cool. In addition, models in your kill team that are within 6 inches of a friendly Synapse model do not suffer the penalty to their hit rolls from flesh wounds. So it ignores flesh wounds, and it also has a feel no pain as long as they're within range of a Synapse creature. So you have a whole bunch of warriors, I'm sure, that you're going to be running with Leviathan. It would be kind of interesting to see them go there. Then we've got the Cult Creeds, which I was super excited about to see about. The Cult of the Four-Armed Emperor, you add 1 to Cult Ambush rolls for the models of your kill team, which is pretty awesome. So allowing them to, on a 4-up, so basically 50-50 chance of them getting that 6-inch move at the beginning of the game, which is fun. Twisted Helix, add 1 to the Strength, and add 2 to their advance rolls, which is cool. Rusted Claw, you get to kill teams enemy... when making saving throws for models in your kill team, treat enemy attacks with the armor penetration characteristic of -1 as having armor penetration of 0. So anything that's -1 is just basically get your full armor save. But -2, still -2. Hive Cult, I thought this one was kind of interesting. When you take a nerve test for a model in your kill team, roll a d3 instead of a d6. In addition, models in your kill team can shoot in a battle round in which they retreated or fell back. But if they do so, 6 is always needed to a successful roll, irrespective of any modifiers. So again, they get the benefit, they basically have the benefit of that the Ultramarines have, which is allow them to fall back and shoot, but it also has D3 instead of D6 on their nerve tests, which is fun, keeping them around, because they've got pretty high leadership, the Jeanstealer Cult, so that would be pretty cool. Then you have the Bladed Cog. Models in your kill team have a 6+ invul save, which is always fun, and models in your kill team that already have this invulnerable save can increase it by 1 to a maximum of 3+. In addition, models in your kill team do not suffer the penalty to their hit rolls for moving and shooting with heavy weapons. So that'd be fun to throw a couple of the neophyte gunners with some of the heavy mining lasers or something like that, and get them to be able to use that, which is fun. They've got an invul save, which will keep them around longer, and it'll also have the ability to move and shoot with those big heavy mining lasers. And then Pauper Princes, you can reroll failed hit rolls in the fight phase or attacks made for your model kill team if it was charged, blah, blah, blah. So those are all kind of interesting. There's also a couple new tactics and traits, or a bunch of different tactics that you can use. The ones that are interesting for in each of these different kill teams, now they have the ability to have deep strike that's just within 5 inches. So like we talked about before with reserves, that a regular reserve, you have to be within an inch of a table edge within your deployment zone. Now they had that tactic that allowed you to do it outside of your deployment zone, but still within an inch of the table edge because you're basically outflanking. A lot of these now have the ability, if you meet certain characteristics, for instance, for the Dark Angels, for the Adeptus Astartes, if you have a Terminator armor, or if you have a jump pack, or if you have a grav shoot or a reaver, you can allows you to do different things, which will allow them to come 5 inches away. So, for instance, grab, shoot, descent. Use this tactic at the end of the movement phase. Choose up to 3 models that are any combination of grab, shoot, and or reaver models from your kill team that were set up in reserve, and set them up anywhere on the battlefield that is more than 5 inches away from any enemy model. So you can have up to 3 for one command point, going 5 inches away from any enemy models. That's not in the doesn't have to be within an inch of the table edge. Doesn't have to be in your deployment zone, as long as they're reavers or grab shoot. You have the same thing here, but just for up to 3 Terminator models, and you have another one up here, up to 3 jump pack models from your kill team that were set up in reserves. Have the same thing where they can drop down. And they have a lot of the same things that you have available there. So they've got Angels of Death. Use this tactic after choosing a model you charged in this battle round to fight with. Add 1 to that model's attacks characteristics for the phase, which is kind of cool. Popping that for 1 CP on top of a Reaver Sergeant with a close combat knife. That's also a combat specialist, and suddenly you've got like 6 attacks that you're going in there with. So you would have, what is that, 3 base plus 1 for the combat specialist, 1 for the six attacks there. Which is kind of fun. And then you have here Death Denied for 2 CP. When a model of yours is taken out of action, model suffers a flesh wound instead. So kind of interesting that they've got all these different things going on here. Then we go into what they've gained access to, the different units. So basically all of the different units that were in Shadowspear, they gained access to. So they've got a captain in Phobos armor. He's a commander, so it's not going to be in your regular games of kill team. It's just going to be in commander games. Same thing with the lieutenant. Throughout here, they have a bunch of different additions to both the regular game and also to commander games. So a lot of the big scary ones that were there are just for commander games, and they're designed to be commanders that just give you more choices for that. So you have the captain in Phobos armor. You've got the lieutenant in Phobos armor, having access to them, which is pretty cool. You have a librarian in Phobos armor. Then you have the librarian in Terminator armor. You also have the chaplain in Terminator armor and a captain in Terminator armor, which is fun. I think it's going to be kind of cool to run in there with a whole bunch of Terminators and play with the same rules and have it almost be like almost like a Space Hulk kind of game, except a little bit more open world, which I think will be kind of fun to play with. But you have access to those commanders there. Then you have, again, like I said, all the ones from Shadowspear. So you've got infiltrators, suppressors, and eliminators are now available to you in this game. You also have access to Terminators. Of interest here is that they actually have different weapons available to them if they come from different chapters. So for instance, a Dark Angels Terminator Gunner may replace their Stormbolter with a Plasma Cannon, and a Space Wolf Terminator, Terminator Gunner, or Terminator Sergeant may replace their Power Fist or Power Sword with a Lightning Claw, Power Axe, Power Maul, Power Sword, Storm Shield, or Thunder Hammer. And a Space Wolf Terminator, Terminator Gunner, or Terminator Sergeant may replace their Stormbolter with a Combi Flamer, Combi Melta, Combi Plasma, or one item from the Terminator weapons list. So that's kind of interesting how they have it. You're getting access to different things based upon the different chapters you're choosing. In this case, it's just those two. So if you have Dark Angels or if you have Space Wolves. And essentially, I think that's just to allow you to have access to the models that you would have already had access to in your regular 40k game, so you don't have to make new models. You can just use the ones that you already have. But it's kind of cool. So you've got the 2 gunners that up to 2 gunners that you have max there, and up to 1 Terminator Sergeant. Sergeant has the Power Sword and Stormbolter. The gunners get access to a whole bunch of different things. A bunch of the heavy weapons there, which is pretty cool. They're kind of expensive though, so we'll get into that in a bit. But then you have access to veterans, and also almost to make up for the fact that you don't have access to certain things. For instance, Space Wolves and Dark Angels don't have access to Vanguard veterans or Stern Guard veterans, Stern Guard gunners or Stern Guard sergeants or Vanguard veterans. You also the max characteristics for Space Wolves company veterans is dash rather than force. You can have as many Space Wolf company veterans as you want. You just can't have. You just can't take any of the other ones. And again, I think that's just to make it more in line with the way things are in regular 40k. But now they do have access. Regular other ones who aren't these bros do have access to Vanguard veterans. So if you wanted to take Ultramarines with jump packs, you now have access to them with the Vanguard veterans, which is kind of interesting. And those also got access to them for the Death Watch as well. But the weapons are kind of expensive, So if you look at that, like, they've got all the different abilities that they have there. But if you look at it, a chain fist, for instance, is 6 points just for the weapon. You have power fists are 4 points. You've got a thunder hammer is 8 points. And when you're talking about a 100-point list, that really starts to add up a lot. And you've got storm bolters are 2 points each. You've got a whole bunch of these different things that you have access to, but you really pay for it. Like a missile launcher is 10 points. Multi-melter is 10 points. Las cannon is 13 points. So you really are paying for it. So essentially, if you put them onto a veteran, that's an entire, tactical marine that you basically lost there by putting on that las cannon. So you really have to start to think about if you really have, if it's really what you're looking for there. And regular Terminators cost base 25 points, and Terminator Gunners are 26 points, Sergeants are 27 points. So honestly, you're looking there, you're going to get at most 3 that you can fit into a list, because you've got to give them some of these weapons that are going to cost points. So the most you can have is 3 Terminators in there, and at that point, you're really narrowing down how many models you're going to have on the table, and really hurting yourself a bit. Deathwatch kill teams have all the same stuff. They get special issue ammunition. They also get that goes over the different units that they get. They also have something called mission tactics. So if everyone's from the Deathwatch there, at the beginning of the first battle round, choose a data sheet to be your kill team's priority target, e.g. Tyrannid Warrior. You can reroll wound rolls of 1 for attacks made for models in your kill team that target a model of this data sheet in your kill team's priority target. So basically it also continues. So for instance, so if you choose Tyrannid Warrior, this ability would apply to attacks made that targeted Tyrannid Warriors or Tyrannid Warrior Gunners. So it can continue it all. So if you're like, well, I chose a tactical sergeant, not a tactical marine, it's like, doesn't matter. It counts for all of those that came from that same data sheet, which is kind of interesting. So against the Deathwatch, there's, you could choose, if they don't have their Primaris, you just choose the veterans, and you're gonna have a whole lot of options there. And it goes over the different things they have. So when you had a captain in Terminator armor, a chaplain in Terminator armor, a librarian in Terminator armor, Terminator or veteran, which must be a Vanguard veteran equipped with a jump pack, to your command roster and create its data card. You can choose for it to have the Deathwatch faction keyword instead of the Adeptus Astarte keyword. If you do so, you gain the special issue ammunition ability, but you must add the relevant additional point values opposite to your model's total points if it's equipped with any of the ranged weapons opposite. So they have plus points here for the different weapons that those guys can take, as opposed to giving them a whole separate list of the points. So you would take them, so for instance, if you got the Stormbolter, if you took them with a Stormbolter, you've got plus 2, it would be 2 points for that, and then you would have an additional 4 points if they were Deathwatch Terminators. So kind of interesting mechanic that they've got there. And then they have a tactic for 1 CP that allow you to change the data sheet that is your priority target. So that's pretty cool. Grey Knights, they have the ability, use this tactic, basically allow them to deep strike their Terminators. They also gain the ability, which is Brotherhood of Psychers. When it's your turn to choose a Psyker from your kill team to attempt to manifest a psychic power from this phase, you can choose up to 2 models from your kill team to do so. Resolve all of one model's attempts before choosing the next model. In addition, you can add 1 to the psychic test and deny the witch test for models for your kill team. So it really ups their psychic abilities, which is really awesome. Thousand Suns got something very similar as well, or basically the exact same thing. So it's kind of interesting how they're now going to have 2 guys that can do their psychic bolt, because I know I got yelled at when I did the kill team wrong, where I'd used all of them giving Psy bolt, which is, I could see that being a little overpowered, but now they could get to do 2, which is kind of interesting. So they get access to a librarian, they get access to a brother captain, they get access to Terminators and Paladins as well. But again, they're pretty expensive, and they're actually more expensive for the Grey Knights than they are for the regular ones. I imagine because they're also Psychers and all that fun stuff. Then into the Adeptus Mechanicus, they've got access to a Tech Priest Manipulus as a commander, which is pretty cool. Then they also got the 2 different Electro Priests, so Corpuscari and also the Fulgurite, with all of their fun abilities, which is kind of interesting. Adeptus Custodes is a whole new group that is now available for Kill Team. They have an addendum to the rules that allows them to have less than 3 models in their kill team. So they can just take the 2 models as for their kill team, which is pretty important. So because if you look at the point values for what they've got going on here, they've got a shield captain as access for a commander, which is kind of interesting. Very expensive commander. And then you go into, they have access to Custodian Guard and also Alaris Custodian. So basically, Terminators there. So, but their point values, you're looking at the Alaris Custodian is 67 points, and the Custodian Guard is 33 points. So at most, you have 3 Custodian Guards or 1 Alaris and 1 Custodian Guard. Those are your 2 options for how you want to run kill teams at 100-point levels for Adeptus Custodes. But they also gain the gain the benefit of the Emperor's Chosen. Model's invulnerable save is improved by 1 to a maximum of 3+. So all of their invul saves are going to be a max of 3+, but they get +1 to it. So for instance, this model has a 5-up invul save if you're a Alaris Custodian. So basically you're going to have a 4-up invul save for the Custodian. Same thing if you give them on the Storm Shield, though, you have a 3+ invul save, but you wouldn't gain a 2+ invul save. It's just a maximum on a maximum of 3+. So it basically just increases the Terminator invul save to a 4+, because I guess at that point you've got 2 models. It'd be really easy just to try to get a whole bunch of plinked shots onto them to keep them around a bit longer. I think they're going to probably struggle with that few models, but it'll be interesting to see how much they could wade through before they end up being taken down, which would be kind of fun to see. So Astra Militarum, they got access to Sly Marbo, who is one of the legendary hunter commanders, which is interesting. The other ones they have throughout here, they have Sly Marbo is a level 4 legendary hunter. They have Boss Snickrot, which we'll get to in a bit for the orcs. He is a level 3. A Dark Strider is a level 2, and a Death Leaper is a level 4 legendary hunter commanders, which is kind of interesting there. They also gained access to Ogren and Bulgrin, which is interesting. And again, they are Militarum Auxilia, so they do not take away from your regimental doctrines, but they don't gain the benefits of the regimental doctrines. And they're also pretty expensive too. The most you can take is 2 Bulgrin, because you can't fit a third one into a 100-point list. And Ogren, you could probably fit a few more, but not a whole lot more. Then you go into Heretic Astartes. They also gained essentially everything that came in the Shadow Spear box set there. They also gained access to Veterans of the Long War for 2 CP, which is pretty interesting. Add 1 to wound rolls for this model's attacks that target Imperium models until the end of the phase, if it's a Chaos-based Marine, or a Terminator. So you have access to a commander of the Greater Possessed, which is kind of interesting, kind of cool there. You've got Master of Executions, who's also a commander. You've got the Dark Apostle, who is a commander. You also have Master of Possession, who's a commander. And then you have Sorcerer and Terminator Armor is also a commander. Same thing with Chaos Lord in Terminator Armor as a commander. Then you get into access to regular ones, which is Khorne Berserkers. So these guys are pretty brutal there. They've got transhuman physiology again, like everyone else. And then they have a rule called Blood for the Blood God. In the fight phase, after the model has fought in that phase for the first time, when it is your turn to pick a model for the fight to fight with later in the same phase, this model can be selected to fight for a second time if it is within 3 inches of any enemy models. So that's kind of interesting. That's kind of fun. So if you don't kill them that first time around, you get another jump in there. Or if you charge into 2 models, you get to choose them twice. And I guess because they charged in, they could get twice in the Hammer of Wrath phase, because it just says in the fight phase, after this model has fought in that phase for the first time, when it is your turn to pick a model to fight with later in the same phase, the model can be selected to fight. So it doesn't mention anything about Hammer of Wrath or anything like that. So it would be an elected, you could elect it as the Hammer of Wrath twice to attack if it charged before regular attacks get to go. You also get access to Possessed, which is kind of cool, and Terminators again, getting all of the benefits of all that fun stuff. And again, like I said, if you wanted to take the World Eaters, or if you wanted to take the Emperor's Children, make sure that you have to give them the Mark of Chaos that is appropriate to them. So I guess you couldn't take Emperor's Children Berserkers, I think, because I think these guys have... Oh no, yeah. Oh no, they do because keyword's corn, so it would have the corn choice there. So you couldn't take them in Emperor's Children, which is interesting. Death Guard kill teams now gain access to an ability called Inexorable Advance. Models in your kill team that do not suffer the penalty for their hit rolls for shooting heavy weapons during a battle round in which they moved, or for shooting assault weapons during a battle round in which they advanced. In addition, models in your kill team firing rapid fire weapons double the number of attacks they make if all of the targets are within 18 inches rather than within half the weapon's range characteristics. So it basically increases their rapid fire range to 18 inches regardless of whatever the range is supposed to be on their weapon, which is kind of cool. They also get access to Veterans of the Long War, and then they also have the Teleport Strike, which makes their Terminators allowed to do that. So they gain access to the Lord of Contagion as a commander, the Blight Lord Terminator as a commander, which is kind of cool. Oh, no, I'm sorry. Lord of Contagion is a commander. The Blight Lord Terminator is not a commander. It's just a regular choice there to allow them to charge the Deep Strike in. And also have Death Shroud Terminators. So those are the two that they gained access to, is Blight Lord Terminators and also Death Shroud Terminators. So these are going to be kind of cool with their, with their crazy cool weapons there. Moving on to Thousand Suns here, they got Brotherhood of Sorcerers, which is the same thing I talked about with the White Scars, not White Scars, sorry, the Grey Knights. So allowing them to choose two models to use their psychic powers and gaining +1 to their psychic tests and deny the tests. Oh no! I'm sorry. They had the same thing. So it was like, so it says, when is your turn, Brotherhood of Sorcerers? When is your turn to choose a psyker, attempt to manifest psychic powers? You can choose up to 2 models from your kill team. Resolve all of the model's attempts before choosing the next model. In addition, the range of all psychic powers manifested by models in your kill team are increased by 3 inches. So instead of getting +1 to their tests and deny, they get 3 extra inches to the range that they get to do their powers at, which is pretty cool. And shows a little bit of difference, allows a little bit of variety. So it's not just the exact same power that the Grey Knights have. It's slightly different, but still getting the benefit of being able to use 2 psychers, which is going to be fun. So you might see more of the Thousand Suns Marines as opposed to the Zangors, perhaps. So that'll be kind of interesting to see. Then you've got Immovable Automaton. Use this tactic when a Rubric Marine Gunner, Scarab Occult Terminator, or Scarab Occult Gunner from your kill team is taken out of action. Roll a d6 and a 4+. That model suffers a flesh wound instead. So it's basically the same thing, death denied, except for Thousand Suns, which is kind of interesting. They also get access to Veterans of the Long War and Teleport Strike for their Terminators, which you gain access to here, Scarab Occult Terminators. So that'll be kind of interesting to see how they do. Asuryani, the Eldar here, they also gain the ability to deep strike in some guys. So they've got Masters of Stealth. Use this tactic for striking scorpions. It gives them the ability to deep strike anywhere that's more than 5 inches away. So getting them outside of the inch of the table edge as well there. Oops, sorry. And then you have Appear Unbidden up to 3. That was up to 3 striking scorpions and then up to 3 rangers. What you do is you have them in reserve and they get to be set up. Use this tactic at the beginning of the first battle round. Choose up to 3 ranger models from your kill team that are set up in reserves and set them up anywhere that in the battlefield is more than 9 inches away from the enemy deployment zone. So essentially, it's like the scout rule from regular 40k that they gain the abilities, the access to, which is kind of interesting. So they gain access to a couple different commanders. They get a Spirit Seer access. They also get access to Illic Night Spear, which is pretty interesting there. So he is going to be a commander, which is pretty cool. You also gain access to Wraith Guard and Wraith Blade, so that'll be fun to see them kind of trudging along, doing their fun business. You also gain access to Striking Scorpions and Howling Banshees. So I really think it really fleshed out the model choices, which is a lot of fun for the Asuryani. Drukhari, again, they have they've got, if everyone has the Drukhari faction keyword, they get the ability to deep strike mandrakes, which is kind of interesting. So they got access to Rack, to a Rack there. They also got access to Incubus, Grotesque, and Mandrakes, which is kind of interesting. So a bunch of different models that they get to do there. So Grotesque is going to be grotesque in kill team, so it'll be fun to see that. But they do cost 38 points, so that's kind of expensive. Helps balance it out there. You can't bring a whole lot of them. Necrons here got a whole bunch of different tactics that they got here. They've got the ability basically to pop their leader back up if he is slain. They've got Haunting Horrors. Use this tactic at the end of the movement phase. Choose up to 3 flayed ones that allows them to do their deep strike within 5 inches. Choose up to 3 death marks to do that. Then they have here, use this tactic at the start of the shooting phase. One model of your choice from your kill team becomes readied even if it moved in the previous movement phase and may shoot in this phase as if it had not moved in the movement phase. This tactic may not be used on a model that is within 1 inch of an enemy model. So that's kind of interesting. So you can move them up there and then pop that 1 CP, and now they're ready and they get to shoot first, which is kind of cool. Without even having to tell your opponent that you're doing that until it does it. So they might think, all right, well, I'm gonna be able to shoot them beforehand, so I might not worry about these guys over here. And also you're like, boom, popping them up here. Necron tactics, use this down here, Deathless Ire for 2 CP. Use this tactic when a model from your kill team suffers a flesh wound. As the result of an injury roll, it is shaken instead. So you can shake them instead of giving them a flesh wound, which is kind of interesting. That's an interesting way to play it off there. And then you have the death marks here. Use this tactic when you choose the death mark from your kill team to shoot in the shooting phase. Until the end of the phase, you may reroll hit rolls made for that model, which is kind of cool. So if you really want to drop them in there, you spend the 1 CP to drop them in 5 inches away. Then then I would imagine if you could do that, then you could you drop them in 5 inches away, spend the 1 CP to ready them, and then you can spend the 1 CP to reroll if you really want to make sure that they get that thing killed, whatever it is that they're now 5 inches away from. They also then get access to Lich Guard and Triarch Praetorians. And again, like I said, Triarch Praetorians do not get access to the Necron traits. Orcs have a whole bunch of different fun stuff. Commandos can deep strike in over here. You have Dead Ard. Use this tactic in a model. Your kill team suffers a mortal wound. Roll a d6 for that mortal wound, and each other mortal wound suffered by that model for the rest of the phase. On a 5+, the mortal wound is ignored and has no effect for 1 CP. Then you've got Indiscriminate Daka. Use this tactic after firing Overwatch. With one of your models, you can immediately fire Overwatch again. So you get double Overwatch, which is kind of cool for 1 CP. For 2 CP, use this tactic when you choose a model from your kill team to fight in the fight phase. You can make 1 additional attack with that model for each enemy model within 1 inch of it. So if you got charged a guy in within 3, into 3 different models, you get to roll 3 additional for 2 CP. You get 3 additional attacks, which is pretty fun. Or if someone's just swarming you and they just jump in on top of you there, you pop that for 2 CP and you get an attack for each of those, which is really fun. Then you've got Orcs tactic. Here we go. Use this tactic after making a charge roll for one of your models. Reroll 1 of the dice. So that's kind of interesting. So this gives you basically this gives you the access to the regular 40k CP reroll for charges. Because now as it stands, if you roll a 6 and a 1 and you need an 8-inch charge, if you spend that CP, you have to reroll both of them. But now you can spend 1 CP to just reroll that 1 to hopefully get that 2 or higher to make that charge in, which is really interesting. So it gives you a little bit more flexibility with how you spend that reroll for that charge, which is really cool for the orcs there. And you have Orc tactic here. Use this tactic when you choose for a model to shoot with a Burna. The Burna makes D6 attacks instead of D3 this phase, so that's pretty cool. And then Wah, use this for 2 CP. Use this tactic when it is your turn to move in the movement phase and your leader is on the battlefield and not shaken. For the duration of the phase, add 1 inch to the move characteristic of all models in your kill team and add 1 to their advance and charge rolls. So I would assume that stacks with the Evil Sons one, so they can have plus 2 inches to their move and plus 2 inches to their charge. So you can really burn them up the board and get those charges in, which would be really super exciting in there. Or I guess it's not, so 2 inches to their move or 2 inches to their charge. Either way, they're really booking it up there, which is pretty interesting. So, and to their advance and charge roll. So I guess you would have plus 2 inches to their move, plus 2 inches to the roll for an advance. So you have a possibility of, a possibility of 16-inch move if you advance your guy. That's really, really cool. Get them where you need them. So then you get access to knobs. They are not commanders, they're just regular there. Mega knobs as well. You also get access to flash gits, so that should be interesting to see how those all play out on there. And then you get access to your commander, Boss Snickrot, who is a commander. He is also a legendary hunter, as I talked about previously. Then the Tau, they get a whole bunch of different tactics that they get access to. Essentially, they can deep strike a whole bunch of their stuff, which is pretty interesting. Kroot carnivores get to deep strike or get to be set up like the Rangers, more than 9 inches away from the deployment zone. You also have Focus Fire. Use this tactic for a model in your kill team. Inflicts an unsaved wound on an enemy model in the shooting phase. For the rest of the phase, you can add 1 to wound rolls for attacks made by other models from your kill team that target the same enemy model, as long as the attacking model is within 2 inches of the model that inflicted the wound. So essentially, it's if the guy's next to him, they get to shoot and get +1 to wound. So it's pretty cool for trying to take down something big and scary there. So they get access to a couple different things. Commander in XV85 Enforcer Battlesuit is a commander option. They also get XV8 Crisis Battlesuit. That is not a commander, so that is just an access. They just get access to it. Same thing with the Kroot Carnivore. They get access to that as well, which is kind of interesting. And I wonder if the Kroot Carnivore, I can't remember what the rules they had for the Kroot kill teams there, but they also have Darkstrider as an access to a commander in there as well. He is Tau Empire though, so you would have to take him as a Tau commander to gain the benefit of the Tau, any of those rules. So Tyranids, they get to deep strike a whole bunch of different stuff too. You also have Adrenaline Surge. Use this tactic at the end of the fight phase. Pick a model from your kill team. That model can immediately fight an additional time for 2 CP, which is fun. Rapid Regeneration. Roll a d6. On a 4+, the model is treated as if it had suffered a flesh wound instead of being taken out of action, which is cool. Tyranid Tactics. Single-Minded Annihilation. Use this tactic after a model from your kill team shoots in the shooting phase. You can immediately shoot an additional time with that model. This tactic costs 1 command point to use, or 2 command points if used on a Tyranid Warrior or Ravener, or 3 command points if used on a Hive Guard, which kind of gets me to one of the things you've got going on here. Well, actually, I want to talk about one thing. Use this tactic, Legacy of Yamargul. Use this tactic if you choose a Jeanstealer in your kill team to fight in the fight phase. Reroll failed wound rolls for that model until the end of this phase. So that's kind of cool if you're using the claws instead of the scything talons. Which means now gets us to the things you have access to. So you have a commander, a Death Leaper, who is, again, one of the legendary hunters in the book here. So that is a commander that you get access to, Death Leaper. You also get access to Tyrant Guard and Hive Guard, both of which are just regular choices now in Tyranid kill teams, as well as a Ravener. So it'll be interesting to see that spread out and go. I think this is going to be a lot of fun to just see how they all play out over there. Again, the point costs are pretty expensive. Hive Guard are 35 points each, so you're not going to get a whole lot of them in there. Ravener are a little or much less expensive, but Tyrant Guard are pretty well up there as well. Then into the Jeanstealer Cult, they get a bunch of different access to different tactics as well. You have Toxin Gland. Use this tactic to pick a hybrid metamorph from your kill team to fight in the fight phase. Add 1 to wound rolls for that model's Rending Claw or Metamorph Talon until the end of the phase. Acidic Spit. Use this tactic at the beginning of the shooting phase. Pick an enemy model within 1 inch of a model other than a shaking model from your kill team and roll a dice on a 5+. The enemy model suffers 1 mortal wound. Mesmerizing Gaze. Use this tactic at the beginning of the fight phase. Pick an enemy model within 1 inch of a model other than a shaken model from your kill team and roll a dice on a 4+. Subtract 1 from the model's attacks characteristic to a minimum of 1 until the end of the phase. So that'd be kind of cool if you got charged in by someone with a whole bunch of attacks. Maybe just trying to reduce them by a few would be helpful there, or by 1 would be helpful there. I like to keep this handy. Jeanstealer Cult tactic. Use this tactic at the start of the shooting phase. Pick a model from your kill team armed with a shotgun. Change the shotgun's type to pistol 2 until the end of the phase. So that's kind of cool. If you got a neophyte with a shotgun and they're locked in combat, you suddenly it's a pistol instead of a shotgun, so you get to shoot it while you are locked in combat there. So that'll be kind of interesting there. Raise the icon, use this at the start of the fight phase, pick a model from your kill team, equip with a cult icon, increase the range of that model's cult icon ability to 12 inches until the end of the phase. So that'll be fun to get them in there and get that benefit really blasting around there. So the Jeanstealer Cult basically got access to a whole bunch of commanders. So now we have access to the Sanctus, we have access to the Kellermorph, which we got access to in that one box set, which you got. It's the only way to get the Kellermorph as of right now. You also got access to a Nexos, you got access to a Biophagus, you got access to a Locus and a Clamavis, and that is all of the things that you got access to. They're all relatively cheap, especially for when it comes to commanders. The Locust is kind of expensive. He's at 66 points, but like for instance, the Clamavis is only 26 points. Really keeps it a bit more. I mean, basically, the Jeanstealer Cult already had access to all of their elite options anyway, so it's kind of interesting to see how that all played out. But yeah, and then the rest is just, you know, cool pictures of models painted, and then they get into missions. So you've got a couple open play missions here. You've got a couple narrative play missions here, which is kind of cool. And then you've got a couple of matched play missions back over here. So it'll be interesting to get my to get stuck in with a couple of these. I'll be sure to give them a shot here. So yeah, it was this is super cool. I'm really excited to really get my hands on these guys and really try it out. It'll really add a lot more variety to the units that I can choose, that I can bring into there. I'm really excited to have a Deathwing kill team dropping in. I'm sure that's going to be one of the first ones that I do. So look out for that one. But yeah, it really just opens it up, really expands it out, especially for some of the... I mean, Harlequins didn't get access to anything. You know, they didn't really get much access to stuff, but there were a bunch of other ones. It'd be cool to see how how a two-man kill team does, especially when you just load them up against like a whole bunch of, you know, orc boys, or load them up against a whole bunch of guardsmen. It'll be interesting to see how the Custodes do against that, where, you know, how many 2+s can you make before you finally fail enough that you go down. So it'll be interesting to see how that all changes and how it all goes out. So apparently all of the added units that aren't commanders have been balanced out for 100-point games. So it'll be interesting to see how those all play out. And they've all been worked out for that. And the base rules for all of these is still 100 points. There are a couple missions in here, especially for commander missions, that they expanded it out to 200 points to really allow you to explore using the commander with elites, so that you can make like a cool, you know, drop in a captain with Terminator armor and a bunch of Terminators with him to go, you know, wreck some face, and you don't just have two models again. Like the Custodes gives you a bit more access to more models, so you can play fun games and do all those. I don't think that the idea is that you play those 200-point missions with a whole bunch of grots. I think that would just be kind of over the top. It just allows you to play with some of the more expensive models that points-wise, and get in your games with your opponents and have fun with them. So I hope you guys have all enjoyed this. I certainly have. I'm really excited. Again, thank you very much, Games Workshop, for allowing me to preview this ahead of time. I hope you guys have all enjoyed it. Let me know down in the description, down in the comments below, what you guys think about it, what you're most excited about, and what you're most looking forward to. I really like to hear from it. And remember that I've got Kill Team Battle Reports coming out every Friday. So I will be getting into the elites soon enough. Starting actually next Friday, I'm sure I'll have a Kill Team Battle Report with elites, and we'll go from there. So I hope you guys have all enjoyed this. I certainly have. I have been Phil the Glacial Geek as always, and until next time, have fun.